Among the 58 yeas today on national reciprocity, the co-author of the bill, Senator John Thune, who was able to join us after the vote was taken to talk with Ginny, Simone, and myself about the vote in the Senate today. Take a listen. With us once again tonight, and Senator, thanks again for your time, sir.
Oh, glad to be on, Cam.
I know a lot of gun owners are disappointed that we couldn't get to 60 votes today, but at the same time, I think a lot of them are also pretty excited that that there were 58 votes in favor of extending this fundamental right to carry in the Senate.
Yeah, I think so, and even though we didn't make the magic 60 threshold, 58 votes in the Senate is a substantial majority. In the Senate, 51 is a simple majority. We had, because the way this debate was structured, we had to get to 60 in order to pass it, but we did get 38 Republicans and 20 Democrats, so it was a strong bipartisan showing, and if there had been a couple of other, developments, we may have been able to get to 60. Senator Byrd was gone from West Virginia, who typically is a supporter of the Second Amendment, and it's possible that if he voted for it, that we might have been able to bring along a few other Democrats. So, there's always, we'll live to fight another day, but I think that hopefully most gun owners around the country can be pleased that at least 58 senators were willing to stand up for this fundamental right.
Absolutely. And I've got to ask you, Senator, because we've been following here on NRA News over the past couple of days the press conferences that your opponents have been holding. We've seen the statements that they made on the floor of the Senate. And I cannot remember an issue in which the American people, the law-abiding, responsible gun owners in America, were smeared and slandered in the way that they were in this debate over right to carry. They were called drunkards. They were called menace to society. They were called, violent individuals. What was your take on what your opponents were saying with this?
Well, it was so inflammatory, and it's unfortunate that it got that way. Obviously this amendment touched a nerve, but the suggestions that were made were so over the top and such wild exaggerations that it really didn't dignify the debate, and it didn't dignify the law-abiding people across this country who have concealed carry permits and use them for self-defense purposes and are the highest quality caliber people in this country. I mean, I made the suggestion on the floor that if a concealed carry permit holder from South Dakota were to visit New York, that it would be a safer place, and it lit up everybody in New York. So, but they're just very touchy about this issue and willing to use, I think, scare tactics and a lot of fear-mongering to sort of win their way. But much of the information that came out in the course of that debate was just inaccurate and also just really inflammatory in terms of the rhetoric toward gun owners.
And Senator, they talked about everything about trampling on states' rights, preempting concealed carry laws, and I thought Senator Coburn today, boy, he really took down that issue on the states' rights, looking right at them, saying, you know what? If you look at your voting record, 98% of the time, you could care less about state rights.
Yeah, it was really almost humorous that they were using that as a shield when these are the very people, and I mentioned this in my kind of closing remarks, that the hate crimes amendment that they had on the floor the whole previous week was also a preemption, or I should say, really was a preemption of state rights. What we were trying to do was structure this thing so that it protected states who enacted restrictions. It was a balance, I think, between extending the constitutional right for people to defend themselves beyond state lines, but do it in a way that's respectful of states' rights. And Tom did a really nice job of pointing out the hypocrisy in their argument. So, but again, it was so just hyper, and some of the statements that were made were just so over the top, and I think just showed a real lack of understanding of what this issue is all about.
And the list goes on, and they were, how they talked about the wild, wild west and blood in the streets. I mean, we've heard that debate how many times when they were just pushing for right to carry laws in the states, individual states, and yet they would never recognize the fact of what concealed carry has really done. They talk about reducing the crime rate. What about the role concealed carry has played in doing just that?
Well, that's right, and I think, Jeannie, what you try sometimes to get facts out there, to use data in the debate, and it's like sometimes they just they want to ignore that, and again use all these speculative arguments about people bringing Uzis and assault weapons into their state, and bags of guns, and criminals getting guns, and drunk people, and mentally ill people. I mean, all this stuff was just so over the top, and that's what's I think what's frustrating to most law-abiding gun owners in this country. And you're right. I mean, in terms of the rhetoric on the floor of the Senate today, they were not treated well, and I wish it were different. But obviously, we've got our work cut out for us in order to try and win this thing, and hopefully next time we'll pick up a few more votes.
Well, yeah, and the good thing is, because this was offered as an amendment, it can be brought up again. Are you going to continue, Senator, to talk to your colleagues in the Senate and try to get to 60 this session?
We'll look for other opportunities and have some conversations with people if there are things that we can do that would hopefully maybe change the outcome next time. I am happy that we did get 20 people locked in and voted for this, and I think that makes it more difficult for them, 20 Democrats I should say, to vote against it next time, and 38 Republicans who also are on the record on the issue. So we're close, and we'll regroup and obviously take another whack at it when we think it makes sense. But obviously. In spite of the fact that we were 2 votes short of the 60-vote threshold, 58 votes is still a very big majority in the Senate, and I think speaks well to the fact that there were at least a number of senators who were willing to stand up for the Second Amendment and for law-abiding gun owners across this country.
Absolutely.
And I was just going to ask you, when you look at the way the vote went down, and you look at Democrats like Senator Harry Reid and Senator John Tester voting for it, do you think it highlights an increasing divide among the Democrats on this issue?
Well, I think it does, and I think that I know they got pressured really hard. I mean, I've talked to some of them, and they were just getting, by some of their leadership, by Senator Durbin, Senator Schumer, and others. Senator Reid did vote for it, but most of the Democrats in the leadership were really whipping the other Democrats against it. And my hope would be that if we get we get Senator Byrd back next time, and maybe he can help bring Senator Rockefeller along and some of these people who represent states that have a lot of gun owners and where the Second Amendment matters, and maybe we'll be able to change it around. We'll see.
Senator, just one more quick question. I've already contacted my senators in Virginia and thanked them for voting for this. I know that a lot of gun owners are going to be contacting their senators, thanking them as well, and also asking, why weren't you on board? From your perspective, do these phone calls and emails and letters after the vote has been taken, do they matter in terms of continuing and pushing this debate forward?
Absolutely, and I think what most senators need to know, Cam, is that there are people out there who appreciate it when they do take a stand for the Second Amendment and for the gun owners in their state. And so I think it's very useful, because sometimes when you're getting beat up by the other side, you tend to think that's the way everybody believes, and it's not. And so it's useful, I think, for some of these people who made what could be, I suppose, characterized as a somewhat difficult vote for them, to hear from their constituents that they appreciate it. So I would encourage your listeners out there to continue to stay in touch with their senators and with their House members, too, when these issues come up, because I think it does make a difference. All
right. Senator John Thune, thank you again, sir, for all of your appearances this week on NRA News, and I look forward to talking to you again very soon.
Thanks, Cam. Thanks, Ginny.
Sure enough.
All right. Bye now.